Fucking hell. I'll be honest with y'all, I'm running out of steam covering this season. Like I said, I knew it was going to be worse than season 2, but I still expected that there would be 2 or so episodes that I would mostly like. But each one has been at best mediocre, and my opinion only diminishes as I think more about the events of each episode. I honestly don't know if I will cover the final season of this show. But enough doom and gloom, that's a hurdle that I will deal with in 2 years. For now, let's go over some of the differences from the show compared to the book in this latest episode. Let's get on a right mindset, where I go over a fairly faithful scene and still get pissed at it. Criston and his group arriving at what seems to be the aftermath of a battle with bodies strewn about. They just walk in, notably questioning it as it doesn't make sense, as there should be no one in the area who would have fought and defeated them, plus all the bodies are only rivermen. If it wasn't obvious, this was a trap as the corpses spring up fully alive and a fight ensues. Now you might think, me explaining it in such a rather derogatory manner, that it wasn't in the books, but actually it was. Cole was indeed ambushed by men pretending to be dead, and honestly it's equally as dumb. After dealing with the ambush though, it's soon revealed that Criston and his men are surrounded by the River Army, and Criston begins to discuss terms of surrender by yelling across the field to Oscar and Roddy. Don't know how they hear that, because in the books it's a parlay and they ride up to speak.
If there is to be battle here, many of you will die as well. I can't hear you!
Now, in the books, Oscar wasn't here. Not even his brother Kermit that was merged in with him. Criston, with his army of about 3,000, was ambushed by Sir... God, these names. Garibald Grey, Sir Pate of Longleaf, and Roderick Dustin, who commanded 6,000 troops. Now, 2-to-1 odds is not that bad, but in the books, Criston army was really fucked up, already similar to the show, but rather than being tired from bushwhacking, they were actually the victims of guerrilla warfare from the Riverlands army.
I told them I build a sept out of traitors' bones. I don't have near enough bones yet.
The baller line of making a sept out of traitor bones and not having enough was said by Garibald Grey, not Oscar. Criston challenged the 3 men to combat at once, though all of them refused, and it's this part that left a really sour taste in my mouth. They cut the line from Pate of Longleaf. "I'll have no songs about how brave you died, Kingmaker. There's tens of thousands dead on your account." It reminds me of how in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms they cut, or I guess accidentally forgot Steely Pate's line to Dunk, a knight who remembered his vows. Despite everything else being quite acceptable, including changing the killer from Rob Rivers to Alyssa Blackwood, I just find myself extra bitter because by this one change or maybe mistake, it just leaves a sour taste in my mouth. In King's Landing we have a small council, and the first thing that jumped to me was Rhaenyra saying that Aegon only burnt soldiers when he conquered the 7 kingdoms, not subjects who bent the knee.
Conqueror burned enemy soldiers, not subjects who bent the knee.
And while it's true that those who did surrender were spared, he did burn a lot more than soldiers, just ask the people of Dorne, and no doubt many in Harrenhal were just servants and women. Though this is in response to Daemon, who mentioned specifically the Field of Fire, where Aegon did only kill soldiers. A delegation from House Baratheon arrives at King's Landing. There's no mention of anything like this in the books. The Baratheons are very much Team Green at this point, and there is no mucking about with them declaring for one side or the other. Once Lucerys died and Aemon was betrothed to one of Borros' daughters, there was no confusion about who they were supporting. Hell, since I've consistently forgot to mention this in previous episodes, Jaehaera was whisked away to Storm's End for safekeeping before Rhaenyra took King's Landing. Next scene of notice back at the Goldcloaks barrack, where they all quit, or at the very least, a good chunk of them.
Forgive me, my prince.
And this is how you answer? With desertion?
The Queen asked for loyalty, and I was willing enough to wait.
Daemon tries to shame them into sticking around, but harsh words don't fill bellies or fill coin purses. There was no mass desertion like this in the books, however. We're now going to skip a good chunk of the episode, not because it's accurate to the books, God no, but because these scenes' differences have already been tackled in previous episodes. Instead, let's talk about the romance between Baela and Alyn. Now, I am not going to say that a romantic relationship isn't inaccurate to the story, because that would be getting into spoilers, but I will say, this romance is shit. I mean, it isn't Rhaenyra and Mysaria levels of shit, but I feel like this came off out of left field. Am I alone on this? They put more effort into the romance between Adam and Baela instead of these two.
She belongs to the streets.
Next, we have Gwayne arriving at Tumbleton. Gwayne was never at Tumbleton in the story, and honestly, he might get the reward of being the most minor book character expanded on in the show. Also, his comment Ormond seems to hint that he is gay.
Oh, and, mind yourself. Back's against the wall.
And unlike other characters in the franchise like Rhaenyra or Renly, where there's hints of it, there's no such hints that Gwayne Hightower was ever gay. Who knows though, maybe this is just Ormond being kind of a dick and making fun of Gwayne. Back in King's Landing, Alicent discovers Aemon's location thanks to Helaena knitting a tapestry that shows him in Harrenhal. Never happened in the books, and while I'm at it, let's knock out Alicent's other scenes. Alicent, surprise surprise, never sold out her son Aemon, and never agreed that she would go assassinate him.
I know where Aemond is. When Aemond is gone, your reign is assured. But I have no choice.
You could refuse.
I need you all to get down on your knees with me and pray. Pray that the showrunners kill this bitch by the end of this season. That's probably the only way I could consider continuing this show. Speaking of Harrenhal, we are revealed that dragon eggs were laid there.
Your ancestor, Rhaenyra Targaryen, came to Harrenhal after the death of her daughter.
Apparently, Rhaenyra Targaryen, no, not that dumb bitch, Rhaenyra, daughter of Aenys I, had it pretty rough growing up, what with her brother husband being killed by her uncle Maegor Targaryen, being forced to marry said uncle, escaping said uncle, who died at the throne, or some assassins, wedding a chap named Adro that started okay, but kind of got a little messy when he killed her lesbian lovers and threw himself out of a window to his death. She got a little depressed and grumpy, then her daughter went and claimed Balerion the Black Dread and just flew the fuck off without a trace. She was missing for 2 years, give or take, until returning to King's Landing with a really fucked up parasite and died. Yes, it's called a disease in the books, but when they put her in a tub of ice, things wiggled out of her. I won't go into detail, but the poor 14-year-old girl arguably has the worst death ever in A Song of Ice and Fire. Anyways, after all that bullshit, Rhaenyra set up shop in Harrenhal and remained there until she died. So presumably, it is possible that in the almost 20 years she was there, her dragon Dreamfire, the same one Helaena rides, could have laid a clutch of eggs there. It's an interesting theory, but such eggs are never mentioned in the story, so I am curious and very much dreading what the writers have planned for this brand new clutch. With that said, there are still some other issues. Alicent says that these eggs have been here for 100 years.
And they have sat here, cold and abandoned these 100 years.
Even if we assume Dreamfire laid them as soon as she touched down in Harrenhal, they would be close to 80 years old, but maybe she was just rounding up. Now I'm actually going to do something rare and give a little bit of credit to the writers of Hot D. Nope, it's not April 1st, and no, I'm not intoxicated. Or at least I can still drive legally, assuming I don't get pulled over. We're in King's Landing as Rhaenyra listens to the issues of the people, and during this, she actually cuts herself on the throne. Obviously, I mentioned in a previous video that this should have happened much sooner, and that they waved it away with a period, but hey, I honestly didn't think that they would have done it, and they proved me wrong, so I'll give them 1 point on the board. Daemon is walking around in a bit of a disguise as he's dressed like a Goldcloak, and his would-be assassin approaches him. I gotta say, if these killers are dressed like this, it's a miracle they killed as many armored, armed, and trained Goldcloaks as they did without anyone dying on their part. Daemon is too cool for that though, and catches the guy and kills him after a little interrogation.
You'll never make us embrace her.
He also, very coincidentally, runs into Ulf at the tavern and kind of beats the piss out of him. It's funny to see that in the show, Daemon has been the one to treat the dragonseeds the worst, especially Ulf, as in the books he's actually the one who says that they should be rewarded and vouches for them, even wanting to wed them to ladies and give them castles and titles, which Rhaenyra refuses on the advice of Corlys. You know what? let's actually talk about those marriages, because it's kind of interesting, especially since it's not likely going to appear in the show, well, with this season still being 2 episodes, and if they introduce this story point, god, it's going to be a mess. At the start of the war, Lord Stokeworth and Rosby declared for Rhaenyra, but being imprisoned and threatened by Cole, they declared for Aegon not long after. Rhaenyra, of course, takes King's Landing, and the two try to swear fealty to her again, but instead, she isn't having it and executes them. Daemon has the idea to have Ulf and Hugh wed their daughters and inherit their lands, though Corlys doesn't like that idea. Lord Stokeworth and Rosby had sons, and allowing the daughters to inherit over them will likely turn those who support her away, as it messes with the laws of succession and inheritance, and that Rhaenyra is a special case and not changing the norm of the law. Rhaenyra listens to Corlys, and so she just knights them and rewards them with lands on Driftmark. Later on, though, Daemon also floats the idea of wiping out the Baratheons and Lannisters and granting Storm's End and Casterly Rock to Ulf and Hugh. Corlys, again, voices against that decision, and Rhaenyra listens to him. In Tumbleton, the delegation of House Baratheon arrives to declare for Daeron, but are discovered to be assassins by Gwayne. Ormond is pretty useless here due to his sensitivity to odors, and I don't recall if I mentioned that said sensitivity to odors were never mentioned in the books, definitely not to this level if they were, and was an accomplished knight who fought in battles and wasn't brought to his knees puking just because of something smelling bad.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
And the final scene. Sir John Roxton teleported all the way to Corlys and presumably abducts him. Kind of like when Otto was randomly taken prisoner. This shit never happened. And that's all. Obviously a lot was skipped over, but if you want to hear my thoughts on every scene, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next video where me and DJ Fella review the episode. Until then, be safe, and I hope you all have a wonderful night.